Good evening and a warm welcome to all of you all to the esteemed speaker for the day, Ms. Radhika Gupta, the past president and the moderator for today's session, CA Raman Jokhakar, and my colleague, office bearer Mandar Telang. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure today, on behalf of the Bombay Chartered Accountants Society, to host this lecture meeting on a topic which is a hot topic now, dealing with capital markets, because with the IPO frenzy, fundraising frenzy, and of course the Indian economy vis-a-vis the global economy, there has always been a talk when we will cross 3 trillion, 1 trillion, 5 trillion, whether we will be number 4, number 3. So all these talks keep on happening. What is the GDP growth? What is the growth rate? What is the GDP? So in the midst of all this, also her connection with the mutual fund industry, which is an important cog in the entire ecosystem, she would be able to lend some views on that. And plus, with her multifaceted interests, just to give a quick introduction, currently Radhika is the CEO of Edelweiss Mutual Fund. She is also a prominent public speaker, a judge on the Shark Tank season, and she is also an author of 2 books, Most Powerful Woman in Business and India's Hottest 40 Young Business Leaders. So I'm sure with her varied experience, she has also graduated from, I think, universities, and her qualifications also are there. So I think I would not like to take too much time on the introduction, but rather to go on to the topic. As far as the panelist is concerned, the moderator, CA Raman Jokhakar, he is no stranger to most of us, having been a past president and editor of the Bombay Chartered Accountants Society Journal. And he is a hardcore assurance professional, being the partner with BD Jokhakar and Company. He has a wide range of experience in various international and local clients. He is also served as an independent director of BPFAS Asset Management Limited, which manages AUM in excess of 1 lakh crores. So he has also, like our panelists, being an author of several books. So I'm sure we are going to have a good Jugalbandi today. And I'm sure all of us will enjoy listening to the questions which Raman puts up to Radhika. So over to you, Raman. All the best for today's event.
Thanks, Zubin.
Yes.
Welcome, Radhika, and thanks for doing this. It's a delight to have you as a part of our normal lecture meetings. We have been having this for almost 30-40 years, where we normally have a speaker speak on a technical subject. However, this being a fireside chat, I think it will make it more interesting. So viewers and members, those who are watching, Radhika is a very versatile person, and Zubin has already told about her 2 books, but particularly she is very articulate and she speaks to the Indian mindset. And some of the examples she has given, which I have watched on YouTube or read in the books, are very, very interesting, from dal chawal to thali to savings deducted at source. I recently heard that. So I think we are all going to have an excellent evening today. Radhika, would you like to have some opening remarks before we get into the questions?
No, so firstly, thank you, Raman and Zubin, and thank you all for taking the time. I see reasonably large numbers. Thank you for taking the time on a working day. It's a pleasure. I do realize I'm talking to a institution and group with a lot of age, and I'm amazed that you've been doing these meetings for as many years as you have. And I must confess a secret that I'm terribly scared of anyone who has a CA designation, because I think you all are an incredibly bright community. I've told the Institute of Chartered Accountants on multiple associations that if there was a trade I could do, I would go long CA, short MBA. Please I'm sure this is going to go viral and I'll get into trouble, but I really have the highest regard for the kind of work that all of you guys do and the intelligence you have. So I hope this remains a jugalbandi rather than me talking one way, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of fun. And I did see some of the questions you had. I must say, it's one of the most varied lists of questions.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think in the Jugalbandi, we have the main performer and we have the, the accompanist, and
Cameo.
I'm going to play that part. Radhika, let's start with your journey as a person. And if you could briefly tell us a little bit about your most delightful, most challenging, and most satisfying moments as an entrepreneur in this financial sector area. Or otherwise, which is often, male populated, if not male dominated.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working for now 20 years, and mostly, I think many people know me because of the talks on YouTube, etc. But essentially, I've been a financial services person all through, and largely an asset management person. And what's unique is that whether I've been in the US or whether I've been in India, I've always been building. I have never actually had the one thing, if you look at, that's absent on my CV is working in a very large organization. So outside of a year at McKinsey, I've always been an entrepreneur, either building my own company. When I worked in the US for a hedge fund, it was a young, growing hedge fund. And of course, the Edelweiss mutual fund journey is the same. So I think the core of what defines me and what excites me, and I think what is the India story today is building really large businesses, is building value. And I think satisfaction and delight and challenge all comes from building value. Now, I think what's extraordinarily tough, there are a lot of things that are tough in financial services and in an entrepreneur's kind of life. But I think what's the toughest, which is unique to financial services, is the process of earning trust. Um, in the business of asset management and most businesses in financial services, you don't sell a good. You don't go and say, Raman, I'm Radhika, here's a phone. And then, a few weeks later, Raman realizes it's a good or bad phone. Essentially, you're selling promise, you're selling risk if you're doing life insurance. So you're selling very intangible things and people have to trust you. And I think when you're building a brand without the backing of a conglomerate, when you're building the brand without the backing of a large foreign name, that exercise of building trust when you're competing with large storied institutions has been the most challenging. It is even the most challenging today. I'm 8 years into the Edelweiss MF journey. I still find that exercise challenging. And when you win it, it's very rewarding. I think what's delightful is mostly customer related stuff. So when people write, those messages about how they invested in your fund 4 5 years ago, and they were able to do something with that investment because money is tangible, right? SIP, XIRR, these are all very numerical things, and I know you're all left brain numbers folks. But when someone says, I was able to buy a new house because of this, or one of the women in my house said, one of the house help said, I'm not dependent on my husband because I've set up a long-term SIP. Or my mother-in-law has this theory ke she does SWPs from mutual fund, that I'm able to lead a retired life of dignity and go on a holiday 4 times a year, and I'm not funded by my sons. My SWP funds me. I think those are moments of delight. And, I'm very lucky that I have a profession that has a strong sense of purpose. You're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. And I think there's tremendous gratitude along the journey. I remember the day, for instance, that Union Cabinet approved Bharat Bond. We were a very small AMC at that point. But to have, in fact, that day was FM had announced a press conference, and not many people would remember except me, that the main item for the press conference was the Citizen Amendment Act, which was very controversial at that point. And so she said, I'm going to have a press conference at 11. And it was the Citizen Amendment Act. And we said, great. We actually found out that half the press conference was denoted to Bharat Bond. Now, to see that, to see a young team who you've been building out, looking at a screen and seeing something that they've been working on announced by the FM, like that out of the blue. So there've been lots of these moments of joy, big and small, in the journey of building.
So well said. When I often think about this topic, I feel that, you guys are managing people's lives, because a
Yeah.
lot of the life is spent into making money for, fending for yourself, for your family, meeting your dreams. And that money is given, like you talked about, trust. So you are effectively, managing people's lives in that sense. And they have handed a part of it to you to, protect and grow.
Yeah.
So well said. Coming to the next one on females in workplace, and some people had told me that I must put this element in particular right at the top. Is, what are some of the unique strengths, considering the role you are in, that you bring to, a leadership position in this sector?
So firstly, I'm very happy that you framed the question that way you did, because I've always, you can imagine, I get many questions about women at work. But most commonly, the question I get, and it absolutely irritates me and drives me crazy, is what are the great problems that you've had as a woman at work? What are the disadvantages that you've had as a woman at work? What are the struggles that you've had? And I'm so happy you didn't ask that question, because I genuinely believe that while the journey is not easy for any woman who's made it to the top of corporate India or any part of the world, there are tremendous assets that you can bring and tremendous advantages of being who I am. And it's more important for our daughters and sisters and wives and women around us to focus on that advantage, because otherwise every day you will go in with a victim mindset, thinking, yaar, aaj mere sath kya galat hone wala hai because of my
Correct.
gender. And that's a very depressing kind of life to lead. So
True.
I just like the framing of the question. I, you know, I don't like gender stereotypes in general. But I did this talk once, and I do believe that there are skill sets that are naturally feminine, that are very valuable at the workplace. And we are all talking about the importance of AI, and AI taking away a lot of the parts of work that we do. But I think managing people, for instance, core leadership, um, which comes from a place of empathy, um, is something that is very, very important, and it can't be automated. You can't tell Chat GPT, मेरी माँ गुजर गई, make me feel better. That can only happen from a human. An employee can't go to Chat GPT and say, I am unmotivated, help me achieve my fullest potential. That can come from a leader. You can't have someone say, this person is sitting in this role, but actually they'd be a better fit and they need this opportunity. That instinct will come from a leader. And I think that point of empathy is very important at work. It's not talked about at work, but it's something women naturally bring. I always say that if you look at a dining table, um, और माँ जब लोगों को खाना खिलाती है, वो ये नहीं पूछती कि दाल कितनी खाओगे, वो पूछती है दाल कैसी बनी. And she is naturally very conscious of the different customers and stakeholders. In your world and ours, we use this very big word called stakeholder management. I have to manage boards, I have to manage media, I have to manage customers, I have to manage investors, distributors, etc. I think women were born to do stakeholder management, quite frankly, because an average woman has so many different stakeholders in her life, me included, from the people who run your home to your in-laws, your family, your children, and your workplace. And somehow all those stakeholders are managed without press releases, strategy, motivational offsites, and quite frankly, even a day off. So I do believe that there are skills women bring to work, and those skills will be more relevant in an age where AI is automating a lot of other skills.
Right. You still feel that, there are some, structures within organizations, and you have worked overseas as well as here.
Yeah.
You feel any structures that need some changes to, sort of help people reach right to the top? and especially for women, with all kinds of gender stuff aside, is there some changes we are still lacking or we are lagging in them, which if done, then we can have more participation. Today we see so many students, say in CA course,
Yeah.
there is a whole set of, I mean, more girls are joining CA
Yes.
courses, more girls are topping probably all kinds of educational
Everything,
courses. How
CBSE,
can we get
CA.
this momentum going? Any workplace changes that you feel we still need?
I think there are two things that we need to do. And you've captured this right. Where we have succeeded is in two places. One is awareness, the fact that you need a more diverse. That diversity adds to the bottom line. Boards are more sensitive about it. Employees are more sensitive. So, थोड़ा awareness का checkbox, I think we have gotten better. The second thing we've succeeded in, to some part, is building a pipeline. Now, you are saying more women CAs are appearing. Citibank was telling me 50% of their fresh entrants are women. I think the city was saying that women are topping CBSE exams. So the pipeline is good, the awareness is there. The two places I think we need to work on. One is we need to work on the leaky funnel. Now, I'm a mother, I have a 3.5-year-old, so I know the story and I come from a tremendous position of privilege. We have solved for policy. So we have a lot of maternity leave policy, menstruation policy, all of that. But what we have not solved for is the leaky pipeline in a woman's journey. So when a woman has a baby, she's not thinking about quitting work. And that's typically when women quit after she's had the child. She's probably having a thought about it 1 year before. When she's conceiving, when her in-laws or her society is telling her, "Tujhse nahi ho paega," how much do we counsel our women pre that journey and post that journey and handhold them into it? It's a very targeted approach to solve a problem. That's the point where things leak. And suddenly, after 6 months of maternity leave, no baby wakes up and says, "Mom, I don't need you anymore. Go to work." It doesn't work like that. You need to build structures that create support over 3-4 years. So I think that's one thing that needs to be done. The second thing that needs to be done, which is more relevant to financial services, is we have worked on diversity. We have to work on inclusion. And inclusion means the small, small behaviors that we have that make women feel excluded. There are women who quit because of work-life balance. But if you look at any survey on this topic, one of the biggest reasons women fall out is, the workplace is not worth it because I don't have a manager who's supported. I feel discriminated against. So behaviors, and this is a long conversation, so I, don't want to elaborate, but just work on inclusion and making it a workplace that feels equal for everyone, that feels comfortable for everyone, where the language, the safety is comfortable for everyone.
I think you rightly said what we are, lacking or lagging. Is there anything that you would like to put it and turn it into an affirmative sentence and tell young girls or young people who are or who will listen to this podcast how you sort of uh, have any kind of advice from your own experience?
So I'll tell you an interesting stat, and I don't like to give young girls advice because I feel Indian women get too much advice. But I'll tell you a stat, and despite being the female head of an AMC, I have never consciously tried to do a lot of stuff about it because I feel finally work should speak beyond gender. Now, I discovered something a few days ago. One is that the BFSI average of women is about 25%. Edelweiss AMC is 31%. And women in senior management is very, very high. We have a female CEO, COO, CRO, we have lots of women in leadership. It's not because I've run some program or done anything. It's just happened because of role modeling. Now, the second thing that's even more interesting, the MF industry has on average about 26% women investors. Edelweiss MF has 38% women investors. And we have never run a dedicated campaign for women. We've done nothing to attract women investors. And so I think role modeling and paying it forward is a secretive but silently very, very powerful weapon.
True. True. Would you feel that the folio, I don't know whether you have that number or that analysis, amongst the unique PAN-based folios, do
Yeah.
you think we would have somewhat equal numbers, or there also we have some lopsided, percentage?
You're saying if you look at folios of Edelweiss versus others?
Or even general, like an Amphi data or
So
from
Amphi
your
data, as I
EMC?
said, Amphi data is about 26% women investors.
Okay, okay.
Folios or PANs, very similar.
Acha,
26% investors are women. In our
women.
case, it's about 37, as I
30.
said.
Okay.
And I promise you, we've never run a campaign for women. Not a single one. We've never designed a women's
Right.
product. We've never done a women's podcast. We just talked in a way that perhaps appeals to that constituency. And I don't think you need to make pink balanced advantage funds and pink small cap funds to appeal to women. You don't need to do that. You need to role model behavior.
True. True. Coming to your books,
Yes.
as an author,
Uh-huh.
you have written two excellent books, and if you could tell us, what prompted you to write, amongst all the other things at your age that you might be doing, how did you end up writing this? It needs, I have done one book, and I would sit after 6 o'clock, after 8 o'clock, and work all the way up to midnight, and put that data together. So what was your sort of prompting and the energy behind it?
So the first book came out of COVID. And I think most things in my life have come out of opportunities and some sort of chance and some choice. Now, interestingly, I had been doing a lot of talks on YouTube, and the girl with the broken neck went viral and all that stuff happened. And I have very few skills in life. So I can't play the piano, I can't dance, I can't do art. I have no such skill. The thoda bahota jo mujhe interest hai, and this is a family thing, is to write. So I've been writing poetry since the age of 5. I actually genuinely enjoy writing. I used to read 50 literature books a year. I
Wow.
still write stuff, so I enjoy writing. Now, like you, I thought that writing a book is something that you do when you're much older, because quite frankly, you haven't achieved enough to write a book. But a publisher came to me after seeing Shark Tank in my, no, this was pre-Shark Tank, seeing my talks and saying, you should put out something. And my take was, why now? I haven't done enough. And they told me something which resonated with me at the time of Limitless, which was that you don't have to have the same voice through life. You can have a voice at 35 and you can have a voice at 60. And even if you don't have something great to say. So Limitless essentially was life learnings and life stories. There's nothing I've said that hasn't been said before, but it's my perspective written through the journey of an Indian woman in an Indian context. And I think that that's what worked for it. With Mango Millionaire, again, I think we had been doing a lot of content snippets. I mean, education is a big part of what we do at Edelweiss ML. And I always felt, what is the need for a book? But then I heard something which made sense. That there are lots of people that say कि अच्छा, noodles ऐसे बनते हैं, दाल चावल ऐसे बनते हैं, पनीर टिक्का ऐसे बनता है. But there's nothing that says, I don't know how to cook, teach me how to cook. There's no beginning to end simple guide for someone who says, I want to invest 10,000 rupees a month, but I don't even know the meaning of equity. How do I get? I don't even know, forget that. Of that 10,000, should I invest 1,000? How do I start saving? What if I'm stuck in a debt trap? Should I buy a house or rent a house? And so that's how Mango Millionaire was born. And again, a bunch of publishers approached me after Limitless. And I said, yes, and it makes sense to write a book. So what's common between my books is two things. One is they are written within Indian context, because I do believe India is unique. The problems of India are unique. The context of India is unique. The language of India is unique. Secondly, they're intended to be written with a lot of stories and storytelling. So for instance, there's a lot of use of film across both books, because I do believe film is something that resonates. There's a lot of use of whiskey and food and examples. So I think storytelling and an Indian context are very common between both books. And hopefully there's some simple messaging that you can leave. They are for the my books are not for the 2% of smart finance people for whom 98% of books are written. They're for 98% of India for whom nobody writes books.
Did you end up getting them translated eventually?
So Mango Millionaire has just got a Hindi version out,
Okay.
And it is getting a Gujarati and Marathi version. So I would
Achha.
do a plug and say, especially to people in your communities who can benefit from this,
Yes.
please give out the Hindi version.
Absolutely, absolutely. Would you like to share, one or two key messages, just to highlight something from those books, which could be takeaways or encourage people to, pick them up?
So I think Limitless talks a lot about themes that we don't talk about at the dining table in India. How to think about rejection in your career and take feedback sensibly, which I think is something all of us struggle with, and how to redirect yourself when those opportunities are there. It talks about the importance of asking for opportunities. What do you do if you're here in a company and you want to go there? And how do you build that journey of developing yourself and asking for that next thing? Because I believe in India, a lot of people aspire but don't ask. So
True.
how do you cultivate that relationship? I think it talks about that. So those are some interesting messages from Limitless. I think Mango Millionaire breaks things into many, many different parts, but it essentially gives you saving a lot of frameworks. So frameworks for saving. There's 10, 30, 50, for instance. Save 10% of post-tax income in your 20s, then 30% in your 30s, 50% in your 40s. So it has some frameworks for saving. It talks about understanding कितना मिलेगा हर इंस्ट्रूमेंट से, इक्विटी डेट, बिकॉज मेनी टाइम्स पीपल डोंट इवन नो इक्विटी में इन्वेस्ट करेंगे कितना मिलना चाहिए एंड कितनी रिस्क लेनी चाहिए. सो इट लाइकन्स द आइडिया. अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल थिंक रिस्क इज बैड. इफ यू टुक नो रिस्क, you would be sitting in the bank. And so I talk about risk like going to an amusement park. There's the high risk roller coaster and there's the low risk Ferris wheel. And some people like the Ferris wheel and some people like the roller coaster, but you have to design your own amusement park journey. The key is you shouldn't get bored, so you shouldn't take so little risk, and you shouldn't throw up. You shouldn't take so much risk, right? So, and you
Right.
have to find the calibration in the middle. So I think it talks about finding that. And then it finally talks about the idea of building your own thali. Asset allocation is finally like a thali and using some of those tools. So those are some takeaways. Lots of frameworks in both books. We talk about buying versus renting, for instance. If you're taking an EMI, how much? So those ideas.
Yeah, taking the ride that is right for you.
Yeah, taking the right ride. I mean,
Right for you.
investing is about being on the right ride.
Right, right. And today at the same time, we are seeing that this credit card numbers that I was
Yes.
just reading a few days or few weeks back are showing dramatic increase. Probably it's just because of financialization, or this is the way, as I was talking to some senior people, bankers, and they were saying this is part of, sort of the India story. But do they show some kind of a disturbing trend to you when you look at some of this 44% yearly rise to credit card debt, which is 2.9 lakh crores, and it has doubled in 4 years? And is this somewhat in contrast to what we want people to do, to save something, to have their pension, to look at the inflation that they are staring at, and all of that?
So I think there's a middle answer. Some
Okay.
of it is, as you said, is a journey of financialization. If you look at household debt to GDP in India, compared to other parts of the world, households are substantially under leveraged.
True.
And some amount of leverage and that leverage cycle kicking off is good. I think 20 years ago, credit card access was difficult. Today, I joke that it's impossible to sit in an airport lounge because at the entry, everyone's pulling out credit cards like change and saying, ye chalega ya wo chalega. So you want the other one.
True.
Now, the other part of it is that is the proliferation too much? And, I think RBI has been smart in stepping in a little early and trying to keep a check on this. My take is that debt in itself is not bad. It's what the debt is used for and how much of the debt is there. And the book also talks about this. There is good debt. Debt that is used to build assets is good debt. Debt that is used to service your needs. Home loans, if done the right way, are good debt. I think education loans are good debt. Auto loans are good debt. And if taken in the right quantum, uh, it's good debt, right? If you can service your EMIs comfortably, it's good debt. I don't think an auto loan is bad debt. But, a culture of borrowing and living beyond your means, debt that is used to service your wants, not your needs, buying a diamond ring on debt is perhaps a little bad. And I think what's worrying is the number of people I meet who are stuck in different kinds of debt traps because they're just running from credit card to credit card. Personal loans, they were on real money gaming platforms, they've taken personal loans. It's happening at a end of society which is not really ready to pay off this debt. So I think that is bad. Debt, when it's for the right reason and with affordability, and we have a debt affordability framework, is good. It's good for India's household leverage cycle. Debt, when you can't afford it for the wrong reason, is disastrous.
Right. So we need to probably look more deeper at the qualitative aspects of what this is made up of.
And I think hence RBI has talked about unsecured in the way that it has.
Right. Coming to the global scenario, and again about global debt, some staggering numbers. We have, 325 trillion as global debt and around 115 trillion as global GDP. And some of us, who are not into that whole global side of economics, I always wonder, whether this kind of a debt and can it be really paid back? Do this kind of a debt have any kind of, hard assets as backing? How would this story end up? Would we end up where, gold standard was withdrawn, or, the currency gets debased, that look, now what you got is just pieces of paper or some number in your bank statement? How do you see where are we headed? Maybe a couple of scenarios, the best case and probably the worst case.
Yeah, I mean, look, let me talk about debt specifically, and we should also talk about the world at large, because I think about this issue. I was at the Milken conference last year, and I remember Ken Griffin, went on a rant on US government on just the amount of debt and borrowing. And I mean, I looked up this number. Today, if you look at global debt, it's about almost 300% of GDP, which is really an unprecedented number. And I think debt is funny. It's not an economic number. It's actually a generational contract that you're making. Someone is taking on debt today that someone will be paying, decades and generations later. And I know you asked the question that will the debt ever be repaid? I don't think global debt will be repaid. I think the best you can do is manage it. So, it can't be repaid in real terms. It will be managed. And how do you manage it? You manage it by keeping interest rates low. You manage it because inflation will erode the value of currency. And I think along the way, you will have defaults, you will have restructurings. This will happen. If you were to ask me what worries me, I think it's the fundamental construct of trust in money and currency. Because if people are printing too much, your currency weakens and people will move to hard assets. And if I had to make a call, I think you will see a movement towards more hard assets. Now, it could be gold, it could be real estate. People have talked about crypto, although I have my own views about that. Even equity, because equity is finally anti-inflationary. So that, I think, is the bad news, that you have unprecedented global debt. It needs to be managed, and it can only be managed, by doing a set of financial engineering. And finally, people will move to hard assets. I mean, the whole gold and silver eruption that you saw in the last year, in my view, is unprecedented. Look what's happened to silver, right? Central banks are talking about silver. I think the good news for here is, from an India point of view, India is not very leveraged. So if you look at government, corporate debt, households, leverage is not bad. I mean, I think, have a very credible central bank. We have low external debt. And so hopefully, as the world tries to control its debt, we can build leverage, but thoda sa responsibly. I also think that if I had to build one more scenario, this will lead to some transfer of power. And this is one of the other theses I have, that the world will not, since World War II, we've lived in a US centric world, effectively a Western centric world dominated by the US. I think you'll move to a world that is less single country centric. That will be one of the consequences.
Yeah. Like Dr. Jaishankar says, a multipolar world.
A multipolar world, he's
Yeah.
far more eloquent. I'm not saying it's not a US dominant, and it's the US dominance goes away, but there will be multiple centers of action.
Right. The next question obviously is about inflation, especially, US dollar being a key currency, and 60% of all dollars, they say, were printed in last 5 years.
Yeah.
And anyone you talk to, especially out of this country, everyone's talking about how expensive everything is. We used to get dhania free. I remember as a kid, if you went to the market, the shaakwali will give you dhania just like that. Take one or two and put it in your bag.
Yeah.
Now they are saying that, it's £6. Can you believe it? This much cilantro, or whatever it's called in English.
Cilantro.
It's, £6, £8, whatnot. How does this get reversed, and would it have some consequence on us, or we are reasonably well covered because our RBI and the government really did a very good job in last 5 years?
So, I mean, if you want to feel better about the dhania, I lived in the US as a kid, and then I grew up there. And for many years, decades, we used to think, yeah, America sabse sasta hai. You would go on trips to the US and you would buy suitcases full and stretch that 32 kilo limit that you have per piece to bring stuff back.
True.
Now, and everything was cheap. Clothes were cheap, food was cheap. I've been going back for the last couple of years because we have family. I can't buy anything to put in the suitcase. I'm doing the reverse migration. So if you think inflation in India has moved, I think US inflation is scary. Now we've printed about 25 trillion globally since COVID. And that's kind of saved us from any kind of collapse. But I think prices are distorted. I mean, onion prices are distorted, AI stocks are distorted, housing prices are distorted. And I don't think reversing this amount of inflation is so easy, because you can ask your central banks to hike rates, but that you have enough noise. You see Trump and Powell, and that slows down economy. So that has its own problems. I think you have inflation that comes from energy, geopolitics, and I think this tariff thing and deglobalization is not going to help. I mean, it's inflationary in nature. So I think you're going to go back to a world where global inflation is not 2%. It probably will be 3-4% in developed markets and maybe 5-6% in emerging markets. Now, from an India point of view, I don't think this is necessarily bad. For us, we need a nominal growth that is in double digits. So 6% GDP growth plus 5-6% inflation, 12% nominal growth, I think is good for us. And if we can keep growing like that, then, and if we can keep growth above inflation, we are also building real wealth.
Coming to, the per capita part, India has stepped in as a fourth largest economy and is likely to, jump up to the third largest. Yet all our other statistics from per capita to percentage of trade, percentage of export, import of stuff, or, service of digital services, all of that is fairly low. When we look at, our ranking in terms of all the other countries in the world. And it seems like government has done a lot, and whatever probably it could, from the GST part to bringing the limit to 12 lakhs and whatever else, infra spending, etc. What do we need next to improve our speed to meet that goal of 2047, because we still have a very steep road ahead. considering the per capita, and we don't like to talk too much. Honestly, I never hear, per capita. As much as we would like to be positive, it still remains
Yes.
a challenge. So how do we get our people to become rich before they get old, as they say elsewhere, everyone's going towards that.
No, look, I think we have an interesting opportunity and it's ours to mess up. I always say that, the first Apple store opened in India a couple of years ago. And if you look at when the first Apple store opened in China, it was in 2008. And if you look at what's common between the timelines, it is both were at $3,000 per capita. And I call that a takeoff zone. So the $3,000 per capita is a takeoff zone where, your roti kapda makan is done. Now, if you're talking about Viksit Bharat, you need to reach about $12,000 per capita income. And I think per capita is very important. For that, you have to grow at 7% plus for 2 decades. I think 6% growth, 5-6% growth, India will do with a combination of BAU, reforms, demographics, etc. But to hit that 7% plus consistently, I think, and if you don't do even that and you have some issues, maybe you'll grow at 4. But so 5, 6, I think you will do, but you really need to stretch yourself to 7 and 8. Now, I'm not an economist, but I mean, a few thoughts since you asked the question. Um, I do agree. I think the government has done what it has to. It's built physical infrastructure. It's built tremendous digital infrastructure. Uh, it's continued to simplify the ease of doing business. It's driven a lot of the capex. I think now you need, and so we've got macro stability, right? I think what you now need is micro speed and execution. So you need agility, execution, and the private sector to fire. And I mean, I'll just give you a few thoughts that I was penning down. I still think manufacturing is very difficult in India. I back a lot of young manufacturing companies because of Shark Tank, and I think PLI is a start. But you need clusters that let you do manufacturing at scale. The second thing I think you need is you need serious global brands to come out of India. I mean, I went to Japan this summer and I was walking down Ginza, which is the main street. And I was shocked to see that, beyond auto and electronics, which are old, even in industries like shoes and chocolates and textiles, they're building global brands. And I think India has been seen as IT services, but that's a B2B brand. You finally need to build world-class consumer brands outside of India. Um, you still need more financialization of savings. I'm a mutual fund person, so I'm not going to talk about this, but more household money, not only in equity, but in REITs, etc., bond market. And I think you need youth participation and you need to really work on jobs. I mean, your biggest edge is your demographic dividend. Your biggest worry is not being able to provide them jobs. We are sitting at 25% youth unemployment. So I think you need to think about productivity really hard. So those are just a few thoughts.
True. And I think recently I heard Sanjeev Sanyal speak about, the structural reforms which more or less are done, and we need the process reform. And that's
Yeah,
why
and
I
ease
think
of
what you
doing
spoke about,
businesses has to happen. Yeah, I mean, there's that famous tweet about a Pune. I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's this Pune Chakki mill, and on top he's put 30 licenses that he needs to operate a
correct.
flour mill, and then he's put the Constitution of India next to it. And ease of doing
Exactly.
business has to become real.
Yeah, it's
And
ridiculous.
you guys are all part of the system. You know it better than anyone else.
Yeah, he was mentioning, how 60 permissions are needed to start a hotel. Some hotelier was probably telling. Now
Yeah,
that's awful.
that's awful.
Coming to investment, the whole mutual fund sahi hai. This message has really played out well. I'm sure you agree, and all AMCs are thrilled with what is happening so far. bank deposits shrinking. Everyone's knowing about this good rate of return. Definitely better than, the basic FD. FD rates also have become so
Yeah.
bad. If you kept the money lying in your bank account, you get almost nothing. So
Yeah.
there is non-stop sipping, if we can say. Uh, you know, uh, where do you see this sort of number kind of going? What I believe is that there is 77 lakh crores of AUM, which is a
Yeah.
ninefold increase since
Yeah.
2013. And kudos to all of you. But we still have a much smaller number of PAN-based folios. How do you see next 3-4 years for AMCs and mutual funds? Hitting what number?
Oh, look, I mean, my job's to be bullish about this industry, and I'm a very optimistic person. And I do believe we're at the sweet spot of getting started. I keep telling Rashesh that of all the group companies in Edelweiss, I was just lucky enough to run it, what is, in my view, the best opportunity.
Yes.
And I tell him this more often than not, because I believe that for the last 20-25 years, MF has been working to establish trust in the brand MF. And now we've got that combination of trust, but a lot of under penetration, because at 5-6 crore unique users, remember Dream 11 had 22 crore users at peak. So, what are we talking about? And I think an SIP does a lot more for you than, online gambling.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of work ahead. I mean, you ask me for forecasts. We're a 75 lakh crore industry. I would hope by the end of the decade we come closer to doubling that size, 150 lakh crore. I do think that India could realistically think about a 1 lakh crore SIP book in 2030. That to me is a very powerful aspiration for our capital markets. If every month you have a lakh crores coming in as domestic savings, which is today 30,000 crores, which was in 2017 4,000 crores, that will be a very, very powerful construct. But I think the larger dream we should carry is that as we think about Viksit Bharat, this growth really becomes for all, and you have 75 crore Indians who are mutual fund subscribers.
Exactly. That's my next question. Where, one of my friends, Sanjay, he has been talking to me about this almost for a year, about this Jan Nivesh concept.
Yeah,
I think it's been around for a while.
yeah,
Where imagine next 20 crores, 50 crore people, put 250, 100 rupees, 500 rupees, whatever they can every month.
yeah.
What would happen? Like we opened so many bank accounts
Huh.
in 2014 after the prime minister came in. Imagine if similar bank accounts just got replicated into mutual fund folios, and say we have CSR or some other philanthropist who can do matching. If that person puts say 500 rupees, we will also put 500, and that could build such a great corpus, or probably give them such strength when these kids become 18 years old. You have a 3-year-old. When they grow up, the inflation and the cost, I mean, you will find out soon what the schools cost.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. We're doing school admissions this year, and I'm shocked.
Exactly. So when this whole generation comes up, they'll have such a great corpus. And whether there's any thought amongst the mutual fund players, or talking to SEBI, talking to government, whether we can do something really big where we are giving them the dana pani, the dal chawal in your lingo right now, but can we give them the mithai when they are ready for it?
No, look, I think there's a lot that has been done. I think the intent is absolutely there. Mutual Fund Sahi Hai as a campaign is a landmark campaign. I mean, it's an HBS or Wharton case study that should happen, because in no industry across the country and no asset management industry across the world have competitors willingly come together on the edges of SEBI and pooled a lot of money, some 750 crores, right? To run an investor education campaign that is traveling across the country. So I actually think it's a case study. So I think that's been done. SIPs can start at 100 rupees. So the access has been there, and every mobile phone is a branch. So I think the pipes have been laid. There is work that needs to be done in terms of enablement, because people expect an Amazon-like experience today. I had told SEBI in a seminar that can we think about linking Jan Dhan accounts and saying, for the first 1 lakh or something, you don't do KYC on entry, you do it only on exit. Can we be a little more creative? We've already talked about Jan Dhan, but can the government echo an idea like Jan Nivesh? And can we create some economic incentives, some matching? Because finally incentives work in India. So I think there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of investor education that's happening. I also think we need to invest in a much larger community of mutual fund distributors, because finally this messaging on the ground will happen through that.
Yeah, it will be people to people.
You have only 1.5 at best
lakh
distributors in the country. This number needs to be 10-15 lakhs.
Totally. You need more ambassadors for this idea.
Yeah. You need more people talking the manage.
Yeah, all these other speed bumps like KYC, etc., if they are sorted, I think we can do this much faster. The next one is on, investor services. And after that, we can go to the last part is, we have a lot of regulation to protect the investor.
Yeah.
And I'm very personally passionate about investor services part, which is slightly different from protecting me from frauds and giving me transparency and skin in the game and all the rest of it. But, when it comes to services, for example, KYC for one, we have this KYC registry forever and it's not working. Mutual funds are much better compared to, say, the banks. You have any ideas, like you just mentioned, for 1 year, can we let go, or for a certain amount, can we give this a, go by for some time, it doesn't have to be permanent, where, from mutual funds, sahi hai, it also becomes mutual fund easy hai.
So I think two things. One is that, the industry has already been doing a lot of work and I think service is important because it's not a one-touch product. The industry has already been doing a lot of work with MF Central, etc., on things like nomination, service request, etc. So
Awesome.
That's good. I think what you do need is a uniform KYC for capital markets. Now, I am told that should be in the works. And a simple one-time uniform KYC for capital markets is, in my view, what you need.
Excellent. In fact, here's a study that we did in BCA, which is called Ease of Doing KYC, a study. And after that, we have had the FM speak twice about it in the budget speech. And one dateline was November 2025 in the last budget. So let's hope this really comes through. I think the last one question before we go to rapid fire would be, the debt part. After the JP Morgan included the India into
the bond index.
The bond index. It doesn't seem, at least to me, that it has played out that quickly, or maybe it's still happening. What's really happening here?
So we are seeing some flow. It's probably not, I think over the next 18 months, hopefully you can see $15 to $20 billion of flow coming in. I think it's taken a little, so the net flow is positive. It's just not as positive as, at the pace at which it should have been. You also have to remember rates globally were very, very high, right? As they come down, emerging markets look attractive. I do think this is a good step, even if flows are deferred, because at least the Indian bond market is part of the global mainstream debt story. And the larger thing is we have to do a lot more to deepen bond market liquidity. I think we've got equity market liquidity, right? Bond market liquidity, I mean, a country like India needs a much deeper credit curve. For instance, we need a long bond curve. We need retail investor participation. I had worked very passionately on this during the Bharat bond era, but bond market needs to get a lot deeper.
So let's go to the rapid fire bit because we want to close at 7:15, and this is the fun part of the fireside.
Okay, so you're going to be like Karan Johar and ask me questions.
Just to make it a little bit lighter from all these other difficult questions.
Okay.
If we were to ask you, between SIP and lump sum, what would be your answer?
I mean, I do a lot more SIP than lump sum, so SIP.
On personal investing, flexi cap or thematic?
Flexi cap. I mean, I'm very dal chawal oriented.
Dal chawal. One thing that can take ease of doing business to the next level.
I think simplifying the number of licenses in any industry, like one window or two windows or three windows, not 50 windows.
Yeah, permission almost seem like, like impinging on my freedom, so many, I mean, there
So
has to
many
be some
permission.
permission.
Like Sunny Deol said, permission pe permission pe permission.
Permission. One thing that can make ease of living, it can take it to the next level.
Better civic sense and enforcement of already existing traffic rules and stuff. We have
Totally.
rules, enforcement of rules.
Totally. One quality you would like to see while hiring a senior professional, a non-negotiable quality.
I think hunger and curiosity and passion, because senior people often hunger slows down. So hunger.
Which is coming next, your next book or the book building of your AMC?
I think it's going to be AMC book building for a while.
Okay. After seeing the present race between gold and index, what's going to run ahead after today?
It's a difficult question. Honestly, one needs to have both. I think in the long term, the index will continue to be the better wealth creator, but gold always shows up as a joker in the back.
Ease of doing business on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 really means it's easy to do business today. Where would you rank our country?
I think it's improved. Look, I think it's meaningfully improved. I think, and it depends industry wide. I think we're getting to 7. I think we've made progress. And we should aspire to get to 9 or 10.
And same on ease of living. Where do we stand?
And again, I hate to say this because I'm from a very privileged part of the world. I think again we've gotten better. I would say 6 or 7. A lot more. As the infra builds out, for instance, Mumbai Metro.
Yes.
Huge step in ease of
Absolutely.
living. So I think 6 or 7.
Rank in order of importance or weight while picking a stock: earnings, sector, or management quality?
Management for sure. Then sectors, then earnings. Because if you have good management in the right industry, earnings will come.
What's your favorite sector for next 3 years?
I mean, it's always hard to pick sectors, but if you have to ask me my favorite, I'm supposed to say capital markets. So capital markets.
India's realistic GDP by 2030.
I mean, so we are sitting at about 6, closer to 6 odd trillion. The Indian economy doubles every 8 odd years. So I would say closer to 10.
Closer to 10. How much of ESG is hype and how much of it is real? 50-50.
With a little skew towards more hype.
More hype.
The governance part is real. The ENS, I don't. The governance is real. So 1/3 is definitely real.
One or two books that you like to refer to for inspiration for yourself that you would like to open it on and off.
I read a lot of fiction books, so I don't read a lot of the biography stuff. I think the best biography I have read is of Abdul Kalam, which is Wings on Fire. That's a very, very good book. And Half Lion is very nice. Half Lion is also there. Mr. Narasimha Rao's, I would say biography. Very good.
Right. FBI coming back with more force, or there is still some time and we'll have to wait? Or we don't care these days?
No, I don't say we don't care is arrogant. So I think they'll come. We'll have to wait though.
We'll have to wait. Small cap as a category, is it fairly valued or it's still overvalued?
It's not overvalued. It's showing growth, but you have to have a 5-year horizon on
Right.
this.
Health and fitness mantras of yours.
I think biggest one is to get enough sleep, to be frank. I think in this world, a lot of people are compromising on just getting enough sleep. We're obsessed with keto diets and this and that, and then people are sleeping 4 hours a day. So I sleep 8 hours a night.
True, true. Ariana Huffington has a lovely book on sleep.
Yeah, I've heard about that book. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think sleep is pretty underrated.
True. And the last one, what's more challenging, being a mom in the office or being an MD at home?
This is. I have a 3-year-old, and right after this, I have to go out and handle him. And you can't reason with a 3-year-old.
True.
He's cute though.
True. So thank you so much. It was lovely speaking to you. I'll hand it over to Mandar to propose a quick, short vote of thanks and
Thank
a
you, Raman.
well-deserved one as well.
Yeah, thanks, Raman. Thanks, Radhika, madam, for such a wonderful session. The impact of the economy and the global aspects thereof, a very tedious topic, capital markets as well. But you have touched upon the concepts like global debt, inflation, per capita income, India's global branding outside, investments, targets. I was very happy when you said from 30,000 crores to 1 lakh crores aside by 2030. Let's hope for the best. The way this complicated topic has been handled by both of you in such a ease and convenience, I think that is the unique selling point of this particular session, I must say. So I thank you a lot for this wonderful fire chat, and the fire chat at the end of the session was the best part, I would say, of the entire session to sum it up in a right manner. So thank you both of you for this wonderful session. And the BCA's event calendar is already posted on the announcements. So I request the members to look at it. And thank you very much. A very good evening to all of you.